I mean, even the father of the 401k said they need to be reinvented.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Twin Shores Financial YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about 401k accounts and retirement. We have Tim with us. Tim, how you doing?
I'm well, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I think, yeah, thanks to everyone out there who's listening to this. This is going to be part of maybe a 3 or 4 part series, which we are going to title How to Build a Successful 401k Plan and 401k Strategy. I think the target audience for this, Alex, is probably anyone from 20 to 55, 20 to 60. I wouldn't go beyond that because with where we are in the financial world and how things have evolved over time, it's the folks that are about 55 to 65 that are going to be the first group of individuals retiring with a 401k and leaning on their 401k to basically provide for a successful retirement outcome according to whatever their plans are. I think that's going to be very interesting because if you look at the statistics right now, the average 401k balance, and these are only for the people that have a 401k in that age bracket, the average 401k balance right now is about $60,000. So there's a little bit of alarm there, and that doesn't even cover those.
That's really not enough.
Right, that doesn't, 60,000 is not going to get you very far, and that doesn't even cover the folks that are not covered by a retirement plan. So in some of the videos where I said the Gen Xers, it seems like we're going to be the ones that kind of take the brunt of the old way of doing things, transitioning into a new way. We're happy to help anyone in any age bracket, obviously, but I think this is really geared towards folks in the 20 to 55 age bracket on really developing successful 401k strategies and really how to make these things work in your favor, because the way that they're designed, it's not meant to provide you with the outcome that you're looking for and that people are looking for.
That being said, I was going to say, what is the first thing that we should discuss regarding building a solid 401k?
The first thing we should discuss is why you want to listen to this one, right? So there's a lot of information out there on YouTube, TikTok, Discord, social media, Instagram, Facebook. Everyone talks about their 401ks and all that stuff. So first and foremost is, if you're a listener, why do you want to listen to us? Well, I would tell you that between my wife and I, we have 60 years of experience between us in the retirement, pension, and 401k system. I've been on the forefronts of 401ks since 2003. I tried to change the markets. I really learned what they're about. I've been on the inside of all of them. So I could tell you product, vendor, how they work, why they work, to the point where I was hired at iShares in 2010 to put ETFs in your 401ks, right? And everyone's like, why don't I have ETFs available in my 401ks? It's very simple. It's because the financial institutions and the places like MassMutual, Great West, Vanguard, Fidelity, et cetera, cannot revenue share them in a manner in which it wouldn't demonstrate the revenue they're bringing in to the plan participants, right? So I was in a meeting one time with one of the top 401k providers in the country. I'm like, we can custody them. They could trade them. They could trade them very efficiently. They can make it work inside the 401k technology systems, which are built around trading mutual funds. But when it came to the question of how do I revenue share this, and we said you don't, it ended the conversation immediately. And, I look at the Hartford used to have a massive retirement business before it was stripped down and sold for pieces. And like my wife was the gatekeeper for the investment companies. So any investment firm or mutual fund provider, could be a BlackRock, it could be a Fidelity, it could be a PIMCO, it could be JP Morgan, whoever, for them to get on the platform, they had to pay the Hartford 65 basis points of revenue sharing. Does that make sense?
Right.
So that's basically 0.65%. It's about an awareness of what these things are and how they work. And we'll talk a little bit about the history of the retirement planning in these modules, but more importantly, how to make sure that this thing is going to do what you need it to do in order to support the retirement that you want to have. And the other thing in that is, in order for that to happen, this cannot be your primary retirement savings vehicle. I put an outline together on probably the 3 most important steps to building a successful 401k. The first one, which we're going to talk about today a little bit, is going to be how to properly use the 401k when you're creating your retirement strategy. In the second module we do for this, we'll talk about the implementation and how to build a successful investment lineup in your 401k. And then in the third, we'll talk about ongoing review and how to make sure you're staying on top of it, or at least hiring someone to stay on top of it for you to make sure that any changes are made down the line. First and foremost, when people think of 401ks, they think of a retirement account, right?
Yeah, or Roth IRA.
Roth IRA, yeah.
IRA, yeah.
So the 401k was created in 1974 as a supplemental retirement or pension account, right? All the workers in the 70s had pensions. This in no way, shape, or form is meant to be your primary retirement strategy. I mean, just think of the sheer numbers. Like, if you're under the age of 50, you could basically put in about $20,000 a year into this account. And most people aren't even doing 20,000. Let's say they're doing 5 to 10. So you're telling me that you're going to work for 40 years, put $5,000 to $20,000 a year for 40 years into this account, and then expect to live off of it for 25 to 30, 40 years, right? The mathematics alone don't work. And you could talk about compound interest, all that stuff. And here's kind of the crux of it. So from a planning perspective, the way things were thought of and taught were, okay, your retirement strategy is built on the concept of the 3-legged stool, right? So in retirement, you have your pension. Makes sense?
Yes.
That's leg number 1. You have your Social Security, right? That's leg number 2. And then on the third, you have your own personal savings and 401k and IRAs, Roths, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the 3-legged stool strategy that was taught to all financial advisors, financial planners, whoever, I mean, implemented down. Like, your retirement strategy is about creating this 3-legged stool and how to properly manage, your lifestyle and drawing money off of each of those 3 different things. So you had pensions for the most people, which are taxed as ordinary income. You have Social Security, which was a system we used to pay into where you would get money back, right? Like, a lot of people are getting money right now for Social Security. Depending on if you have a job and how much income you have coming in, you may or may not be paying taxes on that as well. Most people don't understand that Social Security checks are taxable. And then the third part of it is, okay, you're living off of personal assets, which for this generation that's retiring includes, their houses and assets like that. So the problem we now have is, or the shortfall we now have is, pensions are gone. They're pretty much, no one has a pension anymore. Social Security is bankrupt. The probability of Social Security being around in 10 years is slim to none, right? We are going to go to a system that's universal basic income. People can argue it to the moon or not, but the probability is that, Social Security in its current form is going away. And then you have the last part of the stool, which is personal assets, which the next generations are not going to be buying a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 house in places like Boston, Massachusetts, and then retiring when it's worth $1 million, $1.5 million. You have that problem. On top of that, with how the markets function now, your 401k, especially when it comes to the cost of living in retirement and dealing with healthcare expenses, day-to-day living expenses. Most people are not living at home, right? They're selling their homes and they're moving into retirement communities, assisted living, paying for long-term care. And because most people do not have long-term care insurance, which is a no-brainer to have. Like if you're 40 to 55, you need to be on top of that one. I mean, that's like the prime spot to start looking at that. And then on top of that, everyone's getting crushed by inflation and taxes. So in this world that was built on this concept of the three-legged stool, we've basically chopped off all three legs. And what people are finding out, it's almost like what would happen if you were on a stool and three people just pulled all the legs apart and the legs went out from under the stool. Just goes bang, right? You hit the floor and it wouldn't feel really good. And unfortunately, in the current structure that we have, right, in using the 401k to cover the shortfalls for the old way of doing things, that's exactly what your retirement experience is going to be, because it's just not going to be there.
Right.
So this is something that is being rethought, that needs to be rethought. And that for those out there that are thinking about it this way, you're just putting yourself in a better position to have the lifestyle you want. But I think the most important part of the retirement lifestyle, in what we've seen with retirees, when you're sitting at their kitchen tables, it's really about the worry of money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You don't want to be sitting at your kitchen table worried about not having enough money on a day-to-day basis, because by that point in time, your financial capital that you used to have, your earning power, your earning ability, is almost gone to zero. And you can't make up for shortfalls that you may have had along the way when you're almost already at the finish line. So I think the first step in creating a successful 401k and utilizing it in the proper manner is dropping the concept of calling these things retirement accounts, because they're really not retirement accounts. These accounts are not going to get you where you want to be by themselves in retirement. It's just never going to happen. But you should think about these things as they're tax management or tax efficiency accounts, right? And the key to creating a successful 401k and a successful retirement strategy is you're really trying to figure out, okay, how do I build a guaranteed cash flow? Or how do I build cash flow? Not necessarily guaranteed, but it has a low probability of failure. And I've eliminated a lot of risk from it, to where I can successfully figure out how to generate cash flow in an efficient manner. And it comes out of accounts that I pay taxes on today. It comes out of accounts where I would say you pay taxes on it tomorrow. So those are your 401ks, 403bs, tax deferred IRA accounts, right? Those are your tax deferred accounts. And then my tax-free strategies, right? That's really what people should be thinking about. So your three-legged stool should not be, hey, I have a pension here, a social security check here, and personal savings here. That three-legged stool now it's a cash flow stool. And here's the money I have that's going to be taxed today. Here's the money I have that when I take it out, it's going to be taxed tomorrow. And then here's the money I have that's tax-free. And by properly building that strategy together and using different types of accounts, brokerage accounts, annuities, life insurance, right? Because cash values in whole life and permanent life insurance policies, they're tax-free. And now you have these new structures. And I mean, obviously this is not investment advice, but you have these new policies that are out there where you can invest in the S&P 500 inside of your life insurance account. So you're not just earning, insurance credits and the cash value of 3 to 5% a year. You could actually market to market and invest it as you would in normal brokerage. And then you have your Roth IRAs, down the line, and then you ultimately get to your 401k. So let's talk about diving into the 401k. So I'll just put myself in someone's shoes. Yeah, I'll go back to when I was 25 years old. Okay, I'm 25 years old. I get a new job. I'm an executive at a firm, and they give me the package for all of my medical healthcare benefits, all the way down the line, flexible spending accounts, the entire thing, health, vision, dental, and here's my 401k information, right? So what am I going to do with this information? Because not only is it a ton of information to look at across the board, I think most people put their focus on setting up their payroll properly and then get into the insurance side of things. And then they finish off at the retirement and the 401k. And by the time you get to the 401k, I would say I'm probably burdened with so much information. I'm like, whatever, right? It's like, if I have to pick up another booklet and read through this, I don't have the energy anymore. I just want to get to my new job and figure out what I want to do and start to go to work. So
Right.
Here are a couple things that I will look at. First and foremost, you have to set up your 401k account, right? So let's say I'm at a Fidelity or a Vanguard or Empower, Mass Mutual, whoever, you get a login, here's your 401k, sign up today, pick how much you want to put into your account, where it goes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just start with the first and foremost. You create your login. What do you do next? First thing I do is I go and find the details on the 401k that's offered at my company, right? So they should have a section of the website that you can click on, which is plan administration, something along those lines, where I want to find out exactly what my options are. And here's where to start. So I get the plan details and I say, okay, first and foremost, when can I start participating in my 401k? Sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 years. Most of the time now, people have the opportunity for immediate participation, right? So that's step one. The second thing I want to find out is I want to know, does my company offer, or the organization that I work with, do they offer a match, right? That's important because that's free money. What is the organization's match for every dollar that I put into my 401k? So like, for example, most plans will say, hey, we match 100% of employee contributions up to 3% of their salary. So it's dollar for dollar up to 3%, and then 50 cents on every dollar from 3 to 5. So basically it's essentially like a 4% match if you put in 5. Make sense?
Yeah.
That's free money. That I'm doing that no matter what. I'll figure everything else out. You can, if you're trying to manage your monthly cash flow, you can do that through exemptions and withholdings on your payroll, but you want to make sure you're getting 100% of that company match, and that's the number. Like, I just start there. So that's the second part. I want to know what the company match is, and then I want to make sure that I'm getting 100% of that. From there, the third part of my decision-making process is, okay, do I want to auto increase this or not year over year, which most employer sponsored plans offer that. Every year on your anniversary date, for example, or January 1st, we automatically increase your deferral percentage by 1% a year, sometimes 2. I can't remember I've never seen 3, but definitely it's 1 or 2% automatically done, right? And that's a behavioral finance thing where it's getting people to invest without them even thinking about it, so they can build their pay taxes later account, if you will. So that's where I stop with the 401k, right? Because I want to know, before I put another dollar above the match in that 401k account, I want to know what's my access to that money. Should I have a major life event? and this is where most people get, you know, get really, really beat up with 401k accounts. Like if you're married and you get divorced, well, what happens? Usually through the divorce process, 50% of your 401k is going to go to your spouse or ex-partner, right? That's just in general what happens probably 95% of the time. The second part of that is, should you incur some sort of financial hardship or some sort of change, like you go through divorce, not only do you have to give up half your 401k account, but oh, you're having trouble paying the bills on the other side. Now you have to take money out of your 401k. The issue now comes into, okay, not only if you have to do that, do you have to pay taxes on that money, but now you have to pay a 10% penalty fee for accessing your money if you're under the age of 59 and a half, right? So I'm looking at the access to my retirement money and how easy I have access to it. Because if those bandwidths are pretty tight, I'm going to be looking at using other accounts for additional savings and not my 401k. I'm going to be looking at brokerage accounts. I'm going to be looking at potentially annuity accounts, insurance products. I can look at IRA accounts, right? Because you get tax deferral up to a certain income until you're phased out. And there's no cap on, everybody can contribute regardless of income. And then I'm looking at my Roth accounts, right? Does that make sense? So those are your Roth IRA accounts. So at the very least, I'm putting in exactly what the amount that's going to get me the maximum company match that I get year over year. That's where I stop putting money in and go back to my new three-legged stool of cash flow management through where do I want my money coming out of? Should I need to access it? Especially if I go through a major life event and all of a sudden something catastrophic happens. I can't have all of my money in a 401k to where if something does happen to me and I need to pull money out, not only do I have to pay income taxes on that money, and usually it's not a small amount, but then I have to pay a 10% penalty on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's where you have to go back to the strategy of it. And one of the biggest issues that we've seen with clients that have come to us that are brand new, I mean, they come to us and like, hey, I have this huge 401k account. Great. What's in your personal savings and brokerage? I have this. You're like, you're so heavily weighted on the tax deferred side that you're putting yourself in a really, really bad position from a planning perspective. So before you go in maxing out, your 401ks, I'm looking at, okay, is this worth it for me to do it? The second part of it is, remember, these are supplemental accounts. These are not meant to be your primary retirement strategy account. So the other thing I'm considering on that question is, do I put in more money or not? Is I'm working with my CPA on what do I need in terms of tax deferrals in order to officially manage my income taxes today. So if I sit down with my CPA and I say, hey, you know what, we think it makes sense to max out because we need the tax deferral because we're trying to manage our tax brackets, et cetera, then from a tax perspective, if it makes sense to do that, I am doing that, but I'm not putting a dollar more than I have to in a 401k under the assumption that I'm going to accumulate some magical number down the road and being able to live off of it, right? So it really goes back to the strategy, first and foremost, of properly using the 401k to build a successful 401k strategy, but looking at it from not, hey, I'm going to pour my heart and soul into this one account and pray that I make it at the end of the road, right? That's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people are making today. It's got to be more than that. It's way more than that. And you have to think about it from it's a tax efficiency strategy. Okay, I need this for, as part of my tax planning and working with my CPA and tax deferral. I have it working with my tax today accounts, my tax tomorrow accounts, and my tax free accounts. And then if I'm going above and beyond that, I want to make sure that my money's working for me and gonna be in a really, really good position to to, do what I wanted to do 30, 40, 50 years down the road. So that would be the first things I would look at when walking into a new 401k, a new company, new 401k, and I'm starting off with, okay, what do I want to do here? I'm setting up my login in my account. I'm finding that company match, and I'm making sure that I get at least 100% of that match coming to me. So I'm going to put, I'm going to set my deferrals up to make sure that that's happening. On top of that, one of the last things I'm looking at is I want to know if there's a loan feature on the 401k account. I think loans are highly, highly underrated. The reason why 401k loans, I think, get a bad rap, and I feel get a bad rap, is very simple. If you have access to a 401k and you can take a loan out for your 401k and pay for major purchases and pay yourself back versus paying a credit card or a bank taking out a loan, you just increase the success of your 401k account dramatically. And there was a Nobel Peace Prize winner in economics, Franco Modigliani, out of Italy, who wrote about this a long, long time ago, because the concept of a 401k debit card, another thing that we had worked on a long, long time ago, he proved mathematically that not only is it better for you to make major purchases with your 401k than a credit card, but it increases the success of your 401k by a tremendous amount. And from my own personal experience and watching my parents, because my parents were really, really, really young when I was born. I mean, Alex, how old are you?
23. I'm almost 24.
Right. So could you imagine having a 4 or 5 year old kid right now?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Not at all.
So I observed my parents. My mom's a CPA and my dad worked in natural gas and utilities, but they were savvy, right? My dad's pretty savvy, and I watched them leverage 401k loans. And I could tell you from personal experience, they work, and they work really well. And the second part of this one is too, and this is so taboo to talk about, but I'm going to say it. The reason why you're taught not to use a 401k loan and pay yourself back is, could you imagine if every American in the country had access to up to $50,000 of their 401k account? You can make your argument, oh, they're going to mismanage it, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, could you imagine the loss of revenue to the firms like Fidelity and Vanguard and Empower and Mass Mutual and all of these folks if people started taking money out of the 401k? Like, these 401ks are such cash cows for the financial industry and for investment management firms that they will do anything and everything to make sure that your money never leaves it. And that's why the next generation that's going to come out on the add-on to 401ks that I think everyone should be concerned with. Because at the end of the day, this is my money, right? Like, this is your money. It's your 401k. But these financial firms, in conjunction with the powers that be that make the regulations, they don't think it's your money, right?
Right.
Think about it. They're making 1-2% off of your $50,000. Now extrapolate that based on how many trillions of dollars are in retirement plans. These are cash cows. And the next generation is, not only are they going to come in and they're saying, okay, we did auto deferral, auto escalation, we auto defaulted and selected everyone's investments for them in the 401k. But now we're going to pick the annuity that they get at retirement, right? So it's really just a matter of, I think, when it comes to the 401ks, like, you can set it and forget it, but I don't think you want the outcome of when you do. This is why I think it's so important that people focus on this, is because you can create a successful 401k strategy and get this thing to work the way you want to, but you have to really see it for what it is in order to understand how to make the proper changes in order to have a more successful outcome at retirement. I would say, in conclusion for this, I think that step one in creating a successful 401k is to change the way that you approach these, right? So don't call it a retirement account. Think of it as, these are tax efficiency accounts. And you can't go with the old traditional thinking of the three-legged stool, pension, social security, personal savings. You have to go with your stool is now building cash flow, and how you're getting cash flow out of your tax today accounts, your tax tomorrow accounts, and your tax-free accounts. And with that one leg on that stool, that's your tax tomorrow accounts. You have the opportunity to really, really build a solid part of the stool there if you look at this in the proper manner. And so, when you get a job and you sign up for your 401k, you always start there. Like, I'm at the very least, I'm creating the login in my account. And then I'm going to go into the plan and I'm going to find out what my company match is. I'm going to find out what the distribution options are to avoid a 10% penalty should I ever need to access this money. And I absolutely want to know if I have access to it through a 401k loan before I go above and beyond my baseline of just getting my company match. Because I would not put $1 more into the 401k if it's very restrictive when I have so many other options out there to build my tax deferred or tax tomorrow strategy. That's where I would start in day one. The other thing I would do is, if you're not going to take the time to look at this, make sure you're working with someone that knows what they're talking about, knows what they're doing. Obviously, this is not advice for anyone, but these are based on our experiences inside the industry, the things that we've seen. These are the ways and approaches we think people need to take in order to get this 401k working for them. And even the father of the 401k said they need to be reinvented. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, or we agree with that. But I think you have to have the understanding of really how they're built and how they function, and empower yourself and your 401k to get you to where you want to go. So that would be step one. And our next one that we talk about, step two, we're going to talk about how to build the 401k, how to get it not only set up, but really talk about how to get the investments working for you, and then how to get the strategy working for you, and maybe some tips and things to think about there. And then in part three, we'll talk about just the ongoing management of the 401k strategy and making sure it still aligns as you continue to grow and build and all that other fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Please keep an eye out for part 2. If you liked, please like, share, subscribe, comment down below any questions you might have about 401k or retirement as a whole. Tim, any last words?
No, as always, just do your homework and make wise choices.
All right. Thank you guys.